Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the revolutionary ideas of Swami Vivekananda. He was a 19th century monk who had this incredible belief that education isn't about filling our heads with stuff, but about unlocking the perfection that's already inside us. It's an idea with the power to transform not just a person, but a whole nation.
You can just feel the emotion behind these words, can't you? This wasn't some dry academic theory for him. This came from a place of deep pain. He was traveling, seeing how things could be, and it was a gut-wrenching realization that the one thing standing between his people and a better life was education.
So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Why would a spiritual monk be so completely obsessed with education? You'd think his focus would be somewhere else entirely. But for Vivekananda, education was the absolute foundation for everything else. Let's break down the 3 key reasons why.
Okay, so first things first, his reasoning was incredibly practical. He looked around and saw huge social problems, from crushing poverty to the oppression of women. And for him, education was the tool to fix it.
So it all breaks down like this. First, the practical part. Give people, especially women, an education, and you empower them to solve their own problems. Second, the preparatory step. A real education builds faith in yourself, and you can't really start a spiritual journey without that. And finally, the most profound reason of all, he believed that learning and spiritual growth were actually the exact same thing.
He loved to tell this story about Irish immigrants in New York. They were totally beaten down, felt hopeless. But once someone educated them to the idea that they had potential, that they were just as capable as anyone else, everything changed. They found success. For him, that was education in a nutshell. It's not about giving people something they don't have. It's about making them realize the incredible power they've had all along.
And all of this leads to his single biggest, most revolutionary idea. Seriously, this one idea completely flips our whole concept of learning on its head. This is it. This is the heart of his whole philosophy. Let that sink in for a second. Manifestation of the perfection already in man. It means the job of education isn't to pour knowledge into an empty bucket, but to draw out the amazing things that are already there. And this chart really makes it clear. Most of us went through what you could call the pipeline theory of education, right? The teacher stands at the front and just pours information into our supposedly empty brains. Vivekananda said, no, that's all wrong. He believed the student is an active discoverer, uncovering knowledge that in some way is already part of them. Now, to be fair, this idea that knowledge is already inside us isn't totally new. It reminds you of the Greek philosopher Plato. But Vivekananda gives it a really important twist. For him, it's not like you flip a switch from being in total darkness to suddenly seeing the absolute truth. No, he saw education as a journey, a constant process of moving from a lower truth to a higher truth. It's all about growth.
Okay, so if students already have this perfection and knowledge inside them, what on earth is a teacher supposed to do? This leads to a pretty radical new job description for teachers.
Right, that's the million-dollar question. If you're not just an information pump, then what are you? Well, Vivekananda's answer is that you're a facilitator. You're a guide. Your main job is just to get the obstacles out of the way.
His favorite way to explain this was the gardener analogy. Think about it. A gardener can't force a plant to grow. A rosebush is going to be a rosebush. The gardener's only job is to create the right conditions, pull the weeds, provide some water and sun, and then step back. In the same way, the teacher just clears the path so the student's own perfection can naturally shine through. And here's another great way to think about it, a more modern one. The teacher isn't one of the 4 wheels actually carrying the weight of the car. They're the 5th wheel, the steering wheel. Their job isn't to do the heavy lifting, but to provide guidance and direction. And look, this isn't just a nice theory. It's been proven. This hole-in-the-wall experiment from 1999 is just incredible. They literally put a computer in a wall in a slum, left a bunch of kids who had no computer experience and didn't speak English alone with it, and they taught themselves how to use it. They learned complex subjects all on their own. It just goes to show, when you spark curiosity, humans have this amazing innate drive to learn.
This quote is pretty blunt, but it makes a powerful point. If a teacher's only job is to deliver information that a student could just find on the internet, well, then that job is becoming obsolete. The real, lasting value of a great teacher is to inspire, to guide, and to help us on that journey of self-discovery.
So, how does all this philosophy actually shape what kids should learn in school? For Vivekananda, that whole wall we build between secular subjects and spiritual ones, he thought it was totally artificial. He wanted to bring them together. His dream curriculum was basically a best of both worlds approach. Let's take the rigor and logic of Western science and combine it with the deep, timeless wisdom of Vedanta. Because for him, they were both on the same team. Science is a search for truth. Spirituality is a search for truth. There's no conflict. Now, it's super important to understand what he meant by religion here. He wasn't talking about dogma or specific rituals. He meant the universal principles that you find at the heart of all faiths, things like ethics, compassion, and the search for meaning. In fact, later on, commissions in India made a similar argument. If you don't teach these broad, liberal spiritual principles in schools, that vacuum gets filled by extremism. It reframes secularism not as an absence of religion, but as an equal respect for all paths.
So let's bring it all home. After all this, what's the ultimate goal? What is education really for, according to this philosophy? Well, it's not about what you can get, it's about who you can become.
And really, that's the bottom line. The goal is total transformation. It's a huge shift from seeing education as just a way to get facts and skills to seeing it as a process of building your character, discovering who you are, and unlocking that infinite potential that Vivekananda believed is inside every single one of us.
And that's the powerful question this philosophy leaves us with. If Vivekananda is right, if education is really about unlocking what's already inside of you, then we have to ask a much bigger question, not just about our schools, but about ourselves. What perfection is just waiting to be manifested in you?